Welcome to Honeybee. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell. Real stories of love, lies, and betrayal, where every truth stings. Let's begin. My name is Kyle, and until a few months ago, I truly believed my life was stable, predictable, and secure. I wasn't rich, I wasn't famous, and I didn't live some flashy existence, but I thought I had built something solid. I had a career that paid well enough to keep us comfortable. I worked as a finance manager at a car dealership, which meant long hours, numbers, contracts, and explaining interest rates to people who didn't want to hear them. It wasn't glamorous, but it was reliable, and I took pride in being good at it. I own a house in a quiet suburban neighborhood. Nothing fancy, just a modest place with a small backyard, a garage, and a mortgage that didn't keep me awake at night. I could afford my life, and that mattered to me. But more than any of that, I had a wife named Jacqueline. We had been married for 5 years, and for most of that time, I believed we were happy. We met at a mutual friend's birthday party. It was one of those crowded gatherings where everyone pretends to know everyone else. We talked, exchanged numbers, and started seeing each other not long after. 2 years later, we were standing in front of our friends and families, promising to build a future together. At the time, I meant every word. Our marriage wasn't dramatic or chaotic. It was calm, routine, and steady, and I liked it that way. Jacqueline worked as an account manager at a marketing firm about 20 minutes from our house. Her job involved managing clients, deadlines, and campaigns, so her schedule was structured. Every weekday looked almost the same. She left the house around 7:30 in the morning, usually after grabbing a coffee from the same drive-thru near her office, and she came home around 6 in the evening. I typically arrived home a little earlier, so I handled dinner or at least decided what we were eating. Sometimes I cooked. Sometimes we ordered in. Our evenings were quiet. We talked about our days, watched television, scrolled on our phones, and went to bed. On weekends, we didn't do much either. Saturdays were for sleeping in and cooking breakfast together. Then we'd run errands, clean the house, or fix small things that had been ignored during the week. Sundays were grocery days, followed by meal prep, and winding down before Monday came again. There was nothing exciting about our routine, but there was comfort in it. And more importantly, there was trust. I never questioned where Jacqueline was or what she was doing. If she said she had to work late, I believed her. If she said she was meeting a friend, I told her to have a good time. I never checked her phone, never tracked her location, never tried to catch her in a lie. That wasn't the kind of husband I wanted to be, and I never thought I needed to be. Like any couple, we had disagreements. We argued occasionally about money, how much to save, how much to spend, whether we should take a vacation or put that money toward the house. But none of it ever felt serious. We always worked through it. I thought that meant we were strong. The night everything changed was a Friday toward the end of September. The days were getting shorter, and by the time I got home around 6:30, the sky was already dark. I changed out of my work clothes, pulled on a t-shirt and sweatpants, and stood in the kitchen thinking about dinner. It felt like one of those evenings where doing nothing sounded perfect. Maybe ordering food and watching a movie, just a quiet night. Jacqueline came home around 7, right on schedule. I heard her car pull into the driveway, then the front door opening. She dropped her bag on the counter, kicked off her heels, and exhaled like the day had finally released its grip on her. I asked how work was, and she said it was busy but fine. Nothing unusual. She grabbed a bottle of water from the fridge and leaned against the counter while she drank. That was when she told me she was going out. She said she was going to see her friend, Anne, according to Jacqueline, and had been having a hard time lately and needed company. I knew Anne. She was a lawyer at a mid-sized firm, sharp, confident, and usually put together. I had met her several times, and she always seemed calm and capable. But I also knew her marriage had been struggling for years. Jacqueline had told me about the fights, the separations, and the counseling just weeks earlier, and had finalized her divorce. Jacqueline said, and wasn't handling it well. She was lonely, emotional, and having trouble adjusting to being on her own. So when my wife said she wanted to spend the evening with her, I didn't question it. It made sense. I told Jacqueline to say hello for me and that I hoped and was doing okay. She smiled and said she would. Jacqueline went upstairs to change. I assumed she put on something comfortable, leggings, a sweater, something casual. But when she came back down half an hour later, she looked different than I expected. She was wearing a black dress I hadn't seen in a while. It fit her perfectly. Her hair was down, styled in soft curls, and her lipstick was darker than usual. I told her she looked beautiful. Because she did, she smiled, kissed me on the cheek, grabbed her purse, checked her phone, and headed toward the door. Before leaving, she turned back to me, her hand already on the doorknob. "Don't wait up," she said. "If we drink too much wine, I'll probably just stay at Anne's. I don't want to drive." I told her that was smart and that she should be careful. She said she loved me. I said it back. Then she walked out the door. I ordered food, watched the basketball game, and went to bed around 11, before sleeping. I sent her a text telling her I loved her and hoped she was having a good night. She didn't reply, but I didn't think much of it. I assumed she was busy or asleep. I fell asleep believing everything was fine. I was wrong. The next morning, I woke up around 6:30 and checked my phone. My message still showed as delivered but unread. There was no reply, no missed calls. I wasn't worried at first. I made coffee, sat at the kitchen table, and scrolled through my phone. We were supposed to go to my parents' house for brunch at 10. It was a tradition we never missed. By 7:30, there was still nothing. I sent another message, light and casual, asking her to let me know when she was heading home. It delivered instantly, but wasn't read. By 8:15, the unease began creeping in. Jacqueline was always on her phone. She checked it constantly. For her to go this long without reading a message was strange. I tried to stay calm, but my thoughts started drifting. At 8:45, I called her. The phone rang once, then went straight to voicemail. I tried again. Same result. That's when fear took over. Her phone was either dead or turned off, both unthinkable. My mind jumped to worst-case scenarios. Accidents. Hospitals. I searched the news, looking for any mention of an incident. I found nothing. By 9:15, I couldn't wait anymore. I needed confirmation that she was okay. I didn't have Ann's number saved, but I remembered Jacqueline had once used my phone to call her. I scrolled to my call log and found an unfamiliar number. I sent a message asking if Jacqueline was awake and to have her call me. The reply came almost immediately. Ann said she was in Chicago. She hadn't seen my wife in weeks. Everything I believed shattered in that moment. My wife had lied to my face. She wasn't missing. She wasn't hurt. She just wasn't where she said she'd be. And nothing would ever be the same again. When I read Ann's message, I didn't respond right away. I just sat there at the kitchen table, staring at my phone as if it had betrayed me. The sunlight coming through the window felt wrong, too bright for what I had just learned. The coffee beside me had gone cold, untouched, and my hands were trembling slightly, though I didn't fully realize it yet. Everything around me looked exactly the same as it had an hour earlier, but inside me, something had cracked open. For most of that morning, I had been terrified that something terrible had happened to Jacqueline. I had imagined wrecked cars, hospital rooms, police officers knocking on my door. All of that fear vanished in an instant, replaced by something colder and sharper. She was safe. She was fine. She had just lied. Deliberately, carefully, using someone else's name to buy herself an entire night away from me. I kept replaying the night before my head. The black dress, the way she smiled, the kiss on my cheek, the words, "I love you." Every detail felt staged now, like a performance I hadn't realized I was watching. I wondered how long she had been planning it. I wondered how many times she had practiced that story in her head before she said out loud. At around 10:30, I heard the sound of a key in the front door. It snapped me out of my thoughts instantly. My heart started pounding, not with fear this time, but with something heavier. I stayed seated at the table as the door opened and Jacqueline walked in like nothing was wrong. She was holding a Starbucks cup, her hair messy in a way that looked unintentional, not styled. She dropped her purse near the door and sighed dramatically, pressing a hand to her forehead. "My head," she said, without looking at me, and talked my ear off all night about Greg. We drank way too much. I barely slept. She started walking toward the hallway, already continuing the lie, already assuming I would accept it like I always had. I watched her for a moment, then spoke. "That's strange," I said calmly, "and texted me this morning." She froze mid-step, completely still. I let the silence stretch before continuing. "She's in Chicago. She says she hasn't seen you in weeks." Jacqueline slowly turned around. The color drained from her face. The tired act disappeared instantly, replaced by panic. She opened her mouth to speak, but nothing came out. I could see her searching for words, for a way out, but there wasn't one. I stood up, grabbed my keys and jacket, and walked past her without another word. I left the house and drove straight to my parents' place. When my mother asked where Jacqueline was, I told her she wasn't feeling well. I smiled, ate brunch, laughed when I was supposed to, and acted like my world wasn't falling apart. When I came home later that day, Jacqueline was still there, sitting on the couch in the same dress. She stood up as soon as I walked in and begged me to let her explain. I didn't respond right away. I put my keys down, took off my jacket, and waited. She followed me into the kitchen, talking nonstop. This time, the story had changed. Now, she said she had been with a co-worker named Rachel. Her phone had died. Nothing inappropriate had happened. She swore she was telling the truth. I asked her one simple question. "Why did you say you were going to Ann's?" She hesitated, then claimed it was a mistake, a slip of the tongue. But it wasn't. She had described Ann's divorce in detail. That wasn't an accident. And the more I questioned her, the more her story changed. Wine became cocktails. A dead phone became a silent phone. Every answer contradicted the last. She never admitted to anything. Not once. She just asked me to trust her. I realized then that I was never going to get the truth. Over the next few weeks, we tried to live like a normal couple. We went to work, ate dinner together, slept in the same bed with space between us that felt impossible to cross. She was kinder, more attentive, talked about counseling. We tried the exercises. None of it mattered. I couldn't forgive what I didn't understand. And I couldn't trust someone who wouldn't be honest. I started checking her phone, driving past her office, questioning everything she said. I hated who I was becoming. 6 weeks later, I asked for a divorce. She cried. She begged. She accused me of giving up too easily. I listened, then told her my decision was final. The divorce took months. We sold the house, split everything, signed papers in a quiet conference room. 5 years ended with a handshake. I moved into a small apartment and rebuilt my life slowly. I didn't date for a long time. I needed peace more than companionship. I don't know where Jacqueline is now, and I don't want to know. I don't hate her. I just walked away. Some betrayals end marriages long before the paperwork begins. The real ending happened the moment she decided I wasn't worth the truth.